Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk. Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm Crystal Kennedy, and this is the show where we bring you the day's biggest movie news, and of course we give you insight into what it all means. Joining me, as always, is AMC Movie News Senior Editor, Mr. John Campia.
Good morning, Crystal. Greetings and salutations, everybody. I hope you're all having a splendid and fine day already.
And because you all loved it so much last time, it's officially another John sandwich. We also have the director of the upcoming The Death of Superman Lives. What happened? Mr. John Schnepp.
What happened? Hey, glad to be here.
Does that make you the creamy center?
Yes.
That's just wrong.
All right, listen, folks, before we get into the show, we got a couple quick announcements I want to remind you guys about. Of course, upcoming is Comic-Con in San Diego, biggest nerd event in the world. Starts on July 17th, and we got a couple things we're doing. First of all, my annual Masters of the Web panel. Every year I get together a bunch of the biggest and best names in film punditry online to have a big panel. Usually we have a couple celebrities or filmmakers on board. This year, the new Lionsgate horror film, You're Next. A lot of people are calling this one of the best horror films in years. The writer and the director are going to be on our panel, but also we've got amazing online horror names like Ryan Turek from ShockToYouDrop.com, Evan Dixon from Bloody Disgusting, Gray Drake, our very own Gray Drake, horror fiend from RottenTomatoes.com, Heather Wixon, the horror chick from DreadCentral.com, Lawrence Raffel from Fear.net, and of course James Oster from JoeBlow.com is going to be on the panel as well. It's going to be a great time. That's going to be on Thursday, July the 18th at 11:30 in the morning in room 24A, B, and C. Make sure you're there. Come check us out. I'm going to be there hosting the event. And of course, the whole Movie Talk crew is going to be there as well. On Thursday night, we are having an AMC Movie Talk meet and greet at the Omni Hotel on the first floor in the bar there. Come on down to meet us. We're going to be there from 7 o'clock to 8:30. I'm going to be there. Chris Lee's going to be there. Amy Rose, Clark Wolf, Brooke Chavez, Dennis Zen, Gray Drake, John Schnepp is going to be there. Come on down, hang out with us, have a drink with us, and meet us. And once again, you can look in the description for some more information on all this kind of stuff. So we hope that you join us.
We will see you there. All right, let's get started. A few days ago on AMC Movie Talk, a mailbag question came in asking about the possibilities of a Knight Rider movie. John said he doubted it could happen and that the novelty of Knight Rider was unfortunately gone. However, John then changed his mind about a possible Knight Rider movie when our own Dennis Tseng proposed this.
Dennis, am I way off the mark here? Like, do you think people would actually be interested and want to run out and see a Knight Rider movie today?
There's only one way you can do this movie, and they would never do it, is you make it like a hard R action comedy like 21 Jump Street, where you have Kit and he goes around, he swears at people, you know, he drives around, people talk.
Kevin Hart does the voice of Kit.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
That would be hilarious. They're never gonna do it though.
You've changed my mind. You've totally changed my mind.
A 21 Jump Street style Knight Rider would be excellent.
Pseudo spoof, foul mouth Kit. I'm totally on board.
That would be awesome.
Totally on board
Dennis,
with that.
call Hollywood immediately.
Hollywood, send me my paycheck. You know where I'm at.
Well, it looks like someone was listening because yesterday it was announced that the Weinstein Company has hired writer Brad Copeland to draft a script for a possible Knight Rider movie. Copeland is primarily a comedy writer, having written films like Wild Hogs and Yogi Bear. John, what do you think of these new developments?
I think Dennis Zen has a check coming to him. Yep. That's what I think.
A big fat check.
5 days after we say that on the show, and Weinstein's come out, oh, we're going to have somebody write a movie. The writer of Wild Hogs and Yogi Bear. Okay. Not really. Now, he's done a little bit of work on on Arrested Development as well, so there's something to be said there for that. Look, I said this before. Knight Rider can't be made in a movie. The nostalgia's gone. A talking car is no longer cool unless it transforms into a giant fighting robot as well. But then Dennis changed our minds. A 21 Jump Street style irreverent comedy of Knight Rider, like kind of spoofing itself. I like the idea. I don't like who they got to write it.
Angry Boars. Super Pigs.
So I'm not enthusiastic about it. The only thing that makes me happy is maybe hearing, oh, damn, they better use the original music. They better not do some, as much as I like Daft Punk, they better not do some Daft Punk Empire of the Sun remix of the original Knight Rider thing.
You know that's happening.
I want the original Knight Rider thing.
You know it's going to be remixed. Remix! Yo, it's Knight Rider, son. I'm going to get a rapper in there, like, because I'm crispy and I'm here. It's David Hasselhoff crippin'. Can't even say what I'm going to say. Don't forget it. I'm not really rapping, sorry.
So what do you think of this, Schnepp?
I'm excited. I think it'll be awesome. Get Hasselhoff cryogenically unfrozen in the future. Maybe it's just his head as Kit inside the engine. Super Boars, or like Wild Hogs. Let's check it out, man. You got hired because of Dennis here. Dennis, it's his idea. Dennis, what would you do with this Knight Rider of the future?
I would make it a hard R rating and make him cuss all the time, but I don't know if they're going to do that.
Like an angry Kit, like, I can't swear on the show.
My idea was have Kevin Hart do the voice of Kit. I'd love to hear Kevin Hart do the voice of Kit.
That'd be good.
I mean, look,
I get Bill Cosby as Kit.
Bill Cosby. Oh.
Why not? That would be actually kind of cool.
I'm so on board.
Oh my God! Here's we get some little gelatin cinnamon. That's horrible, Bill Cosby. Sorry.
I mean, there are different ways you go. I mean, obviously they are gonna go the comedy route if they're gonna get the writer of Yogi Bear and Wild Hogs.
I certainly hope so.
That's clearly the way they're going. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, I can't backtrack now. I said when Dennis brought up the idea, I said changed my mind. I would be on board for this. So I'm still not thrilled with who the writer is, but I'm on board.
I'm on board if they have a cryogenically frozen David Hasselhoff head inside of Kit.
Kind of doing what they did with Johnny Depp in the 21
Yeah,
Jump
like
Street
let
thing
him be revealed, something like that.
All right.
I'm excited for it. I grew up with it. Summit Entertainment have released these 3 new propaganda posters for the upcoming film version of The Ender's Game. The film opens in AMC theaters everywhere November 1st and is an epic adventure which stars Asia Butterfield, Haley Steinfeld, Ben Kingsley, Viola Davis, Abigail Breslin, and Harrison Ford. In the near future, a hostile alien race called the Formics have attacked Earth. If not for the legendary heroics of International Fleet Commander Mazer Rackham, played by Ben Kingsley, all would have been lost. In preparation for the next attack, the highly esteemed Colonel Hiram Graff, played by Harrison Ford, and the international military are training only the best young minds to find the future Mazer. They believe they have found their next Mazer in the young Ender Wiggin. Schnepp, what do you think of these posters and what we have seen so far from Ender's Game?
Well, I'm kind of disappointed that Ben Kingsley is going to not be the real villain in this movie. He's going to be like a drunk dude acting as Mazer. That's what I heard. That's a big spoiler. I'm sorry, guys. They're building it up like he's actually.
I didn't know where you were going with that for a second. I'm like, what?
So I'll tell you, out of the 3 posters,
they're ruining Ender's Game.
I can't believe they tricked me like Dark Knight. It was going to be the dude. The 3 posters, I like the one. That's just the soldier standing and you kind of can't see whose face it is. That's kind of cool and mysterious. The one with just the spaceship
or space station.
Yeah, it looked kind of. It was it reminded me of Serenity or the Firefly. I just didn't know what is it? Or Galaxy Quest. I don't Last Starfighter. It doesn't feel like Ender's Game or I don't know what it is. Kind of inert poster. And then the last one, we've been all talking about how there's a mass destruction. We have Star Trek with Man of Steel, all these buildings being destroyed. You got White House down, millions of people dying, and now we have a poster that's like 9/11. I don't know. It kind of offended me, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. It takes a lot to offend me, but when I saw that, I was clicking through these posters, and then I looked at them again this morning. I was like, you know what? That one just is kind of lame. I think it's just I get it. It's a space. It's you're trying to build in the whole idea of it's us against them. It's it's aliens. But really, do you have to use that kind of imagery? I just think
I gotta admit, it didn't bother me at all. I am with you in the sense that I'm not overly thrilled with the posters in themselves. That first one with the soldier standing there. That one's kind of compelling. It reminded me a lot of Starship Troopers.
Yes.
About all the propaganda spots going on through Starship Troopers, which I loved in Starship Troopers. I'm a citizen. Okay, that it guarantees citizenship. I was kind of expecting that, and I just basing on nothing but these posters, I'm guessing we're probably going to get some of that in Ender's Game. I was not thrilled with the original the original trailer for Ender's Game either, but when you have a cast like this, Viola Davis is a very interesting addition to this too, because she's just liquid awesome. She's incredible. But I'm still intrigued. I'm not thrilled with these posters. I wasn't thrilled with the original trailer, but I'm still really excited for the movie. So let's see how that all turns out.
Yeah, same here. I'm excited for the film, but out of the 3, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
It's being reported that actor Philip Seymour Hoffman has joined the cast of the action drama Child 44. He'll star opposite Tom Hardy, Noomi Rapace, Joel Kinnaman, and Gary Oldman in the adaptation of Tom Rob Smith's 2008 novel. officially described as follows. Stalin's Soviet Union strives to be a paradise for its workers, providing for all of their needs. One of its fundamental pillars is that its citizens live free from the fear of ordinary crime and criminals. But in this society, millions do live in fear of the state. Death is a whisper away. The mere suspicion of ideological disloyalty, owning a book from the decadent West, the wrong word at the wrong time, sends millions of innocents into the gulags or to their executions. Defending the system from its citizens is the MGB, the State Security Force, and no MGB officer is more courageous, conscientious, or idealistic than Leo Demidov. A war hero with a beautiful wife, Leo lives in a relative luxury in Moscow, even providing a decent apartment for his parents. His only ambition has been to serve his country. For the greater good, he has arrested and interrogated. Then the impossible happens. A different kind of criminal, a murderer, is on the loose, killing at will. At the same time, Leo finds himself demoted and denounced by his enemies. His world turned upside down and every belief he's ever held shattered. The only way to save his life and the lives of his family is to uncover this criminal. But in the society that is officially paradise, it's a crime against the state to suggest that a murderer, much less a serial killer, is in their midst. Exiled from his home with only his wife, Reja, remaining at his side, Leo must confront the vast resources and reach of the MBG to find and stop the criminal that the state won't admit even exists. John, how does Child 44 sound to you?
Remarkable. This sounds amazing. And when you add on top of that, look, of course, any film that where you say Gary Oldman, okay, interested, doesn't matter what you're talking about.
Instantly going to go see it probably.
Yeah, Barrel of Monkeys, the movie, starring Gary Oldman, I'm in. But then, of course, you add other names to that as well. And, of course, you got Tom Hardy in there. And now you're adding Philip Seymour Hoffman. Incredible. And I love the Cold War Soviet era kind of stories. I think they're all so badass. I like them all so much. So I mean, yeah, for me, this is incredibly exciting. I think this has got Academy Award-winning contender written all over it, especially with Tom Hardy in there too. I think this is going to be Tom Hardy. To a lot of us big movie fans, is already a good name. I think this is the type of movie that could make Tom Hardy a household name. If it's done right and if it's executed the way it looks like it could be. So yeah, I'm excited about it. What about you, Shnev?
Now, did they give a certain date? Like, what year does it take place? I mean, they said Stalin, so
it's in Stalin's era. So it's not Cold War. It's obviously much pre that. But it must be Stalin's era though, around World War II, I guess.
It sounds really cool. I'm really I love period piece films. So this sounds like a great thriller.
Yeah,
an incredible cast. So I'll be going to see it.
All right, folks, so listen, we've come to that part of the show for Mailbag. Here's how this works. If you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on air, email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, every day we address a couple of questions on this show, but we also have another show that we do on the weekends called AMC Mailbag. So send in your questions. If we don't get to it on AMC Movie Talk, check out AMC Mailbag on the weekends, and maybe we get to it there. For now, Chris Lee's got a couple of messages pulled out of the mailbag. So, Chris Lee, what do we got?
Nicholas Crowder writes, I've been a huge fan of your show for quite some time now, and I have a question. With the recent success of Man of Steel, do you think WB will attempt to reboot Green Lantern? I think it would fit in perfectly with the Man of Steel universe, and I personally think Nathan Fillion is a good fit for the role of Hal Jordan. What are you guys' thoughts?
Here's the thing. We've kind of addressed the question about once we get into Justice League and moving forward, should DC reboot Green Lantern or stay with the Green Lantern universe they've already created? I think it's worth addressing the question again now that we're post Man of Steel. Now that we've seen Man of Steel, and now that we've kind of seen the context in which Warner Brothers is trying to head in, it kind of makes this question worth addressing again. I still believe, there are two answers to this. I still believe they should stick with the Green Lantern universe they have. Absolutely, the first Green Lantern movie had big issues and big problems. There is no doubt about it. However, that being said, I believe that two of the things that weren't problems were this. Number one was Ryan Reynolds. He was not one of the problems of the film. I thought he makes a great Hal Jordan. I really do. The second as well is the universe in which they created. They didn't tell the story well in it. They spent too much time on this, not enough time on that. Absolutely. But I think the universe that they created could potentially fit in with the Man of Steel. And after watching Man of Steel, and I'm curious to see what you think about this. After seeing Man of Steel, I think the lightheartedness of a Hal Jordan would play very well as maybe a little bit of a counterbalance to the more seriousness of a Superman or a Batman that they're going to bring in here. I think it's where now, Nathan Fillion, everybody knows, I think is butter. You put him on anything, and it works. I love Nathan Fillion. Put him in anything. I'll watch it, much like Gary Oldman in many ways. But I believe you should stick with Ryan Reynolds. The other answer, though, is I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to reboot the character. I don't think they were happy with the way that went. Even Ryan Reynolds has said before he doesn't think they were happy with the way it went. They probably won't do that. So they'll probably reboot the character and get a new actor and all that kind of stuff. That's where they'll probably do it. But my fingers are crossed that they stick with Ryan Reynolds and don't reboot it. Just use that universe they had. Schnepp, how do you see all this?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to get rebooted. Same way like Superman Returns. It had some interesting parts to it, but it didn't work. So they rebooted Superman. Same way they rebooted The Incredible Hulk after the just regular Hulk. So the Hulk's already been in it. Now he's on his third character playing Bruce Banner, which is great. I like Mark Ruffalo. So Nathan Fillion, I think he's incredible. He's an incredible actor. But he seems to be the fanboys' go-to. And I'm just kind of sick of everybody well, why can't Nathan Fillion be Ant-Man? Why can't Nathan Fillion be Green Lantern? Actually, it's he's a great actor. There's also several thousand other actors who are on the planet right now that could easily play any one of these characters. I was even just thinking, what about the guy who plays Jon Snow in Game of Thrones? He could be Green Lantern. I mean, like I'm saying, there's a lot of different actors that are available. I mean, Nathan Fillion's definitely got the comedy chops. He's a nerd. He's been in a bunch of cool stuff with Joss Whedon, so he seems like that's why a lot of nerds go to that. Why not him?
Although unlike say when people keep bringing up Ryan Gosling, make Ryan Gosling that, or Christian Bale, make Christian Bale that. Unlike those guys, Nathan Fillion never gets put in anything.
Right. No, that's true.
It's he is our go-to guy, and I think he's going to continue to be the go-to guy until somebody finally actually goes with him.
Maybe he's going to be Green Lantern. I mean, I'm
it's
just saying,
weird, isn't it?
Why not? But yeah, Green Lantern needs to get rebooted because if they're going to go with the new Man of Steel, the Green Lantern movie to me just had so many problems, insurmountable, where it's sort of that kind of thing, like the Ang Lee's Hulk, where you're you could put it on your shelf with all your other superhero movies, but that's not going to fall in line with this new Man of Steel, Justice League, Batman, whatever's going to happen. So,
all right, what's next?
So sad. I loved Ryan Reynolds as Green
No, he was great. He made me laugh.
Loved him.
I just didn't like the giant screamy head people with the ash cloud at the end. Boring stuff. So.
Fernando Corrales writes, "Hi guys, great show. In almost every single comic book movie, the main villain is a male character. Some people say that Catwoman from 1992 and Poison Ivy are main villains, but let's be honest, they were not the main villain in the movie. After watching Man of Steel many times, I still think Faora is a badass character that has the potential to be the main villain in a Man of Steel movie. She didn't die. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts about female villains? Do we need more? And would you like to see more? Or do you think it's fine just the way it is?"
Well, let's bring you. Really, there are two questions there: female villains and characters, and Faora. Faora can't be the villain in the next one for a couple reasons. One, she was already the second in command in the first one, and Superman dealt with her pretty easily. She needed the help of the non-replacement, the big guy, to help her fight Superman. So she can't really. That would be a step backwards, I think. So she can't be. Although I'd love to see her return, just not as the main character. Right. When you talk about female leads as female villains. A couple come to mind. Very recently, Dredd had Lena Headey as Mama. Yeah. She was awesome as a villain in that.
So good.
I loved her in that. One of my all-time favorite female villains was actually Kathy Bates in Misery.
Yes.
If you've ever seen Misery, Kathy Bates, she's terrifying. Yeah. Absolutely terrifying. But also, go back even further. Look at all the Disney lore. All the Disney stuff. Who's the villain in Cinderella? It's the wicked stepmother. Who's the villain in Sleeping Beauty? It's the evil queen. Who's the villain in Sleeping Beauty? Who's the villain in Chris Lee and I were talking a little bit earlier about Disney seemed to have had a mama issue.
Yeah,
because
big one.
Even in all these films where you got these female and Little Mermaid, you had Ursula. But even where there's not a female villain, it's there's never a mom.
Even Bambi's mom gets slammed.
Gets killed. You look at all this, even films like Beauty and the Beast. There's no mom. There's just a really nice, honorable dad.
101 Dalmatians. Who's the villain?
Cruella de Vil.
Or then you look at a film like Aladdin. The princess has no mom, just a really good, honorable father. So, Schnepp, how do you look at this? How do you see this?
The new Wolverine has a Viper
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of female villains popping up all over the place. Fiora definitely. She's not going to be the main villain. She filled out the Ursa and Non characters from the Superman 2 kind of remake, and it was great. I loved hearing Non's like grunts. They were very much like, hey, they almost got that right from Superman 2. Like, if you see the movie again, listen for the little odes to the original Non, the weird grunts and stuff. I got a kick out of it. So, female villains, bring them. I love female villains. I think they're great. Men wouldn't be around if a female villain didn't birth them. So. So that they can eat them later, you know? And it's like, so Disney, keep cranking out those evil female villains, because you're always going to need more princesses, you know?
Absolutely.
To fight them. So.
All right.
Telestep writes, hello all the way from England. I just found your show, but I already love it. My question is this. Do modern day films rely too much on the special effects to carry a film, whereas the older films needed the storyline to attract audiences? A prime example of this would be the Star Wars movies. The original trilogy relied on the strength of the story, whereas the newer prequels relied heavily on larger special effects full scenes.
All right, well, thanks a lot for the question. Appreciate it. But I got to say, I disagree with you, and here's why. You bring up a great example of Star Wars, and you're talking about the old Star Wars relied on this and this. Well, let's not forget that when Star Wars came out, it was the most mind-blowing, revolutionary accomplishment in visual effects history. It was the visual effects movie, best one ever made at the time, and it's amazing how long the effects in Star Wars stood up. Like, you could watch that movie 20 years later. It's like, yeah, this still doesn't look completely hokey. Today it does, but like 20 years after it came out, I'm not up to snuff, but it doesn't look hokey still. So you remember, they've always relied, whether you're looking at Jason and the Argonauts or you're looking at, films have always relied a lot on special effects. Now, that doesn't mean that you use special effects in place of story. But the two are not mutually exclusive. It's not like if you have huge amounts of visual effects, you can't have a great story. Look at Lord of the Rings. I mean, what in the last 10 years has done like more visual effects wise? I mean, every single shot had some form of visual effects in Lord of the Rings, but it's a masterful story. It's beautifully told. And I think that, you know, then you get a lot of movies today that are being made simply because they never could have been made before. Can you imagine making a Spider-Man movie in the 1980s? They tried. Right. And it looked terrible. Remember that Captain America movie they made with the Red Skull dude?
Oh, yeah.
They looked awful. Remember that Fantastic Four movie they tried to make back
Roger
in the
Corman, the guy's rubber arm waving at the end. See you later.
I mean, so now we're in an era where there's a lot of movies that never could have even been attempted really properly that can be done now. And once again, I think Lord of the Rings proves to us that you can, and Avengers proves to us, and other films, that you can have really, Spider-Man, a lot of them, you can have heavy visual effects movies with great stories. If a movie's bad that has a lot of visual effects, then it's because it's a bad movie, not because visual effects are there. Now, the next round of Star Wars movies, which was, you know, the prequels that came out, George Lucas, I think that was really a big thing of, you're talking about a kid in a sandbox in George Lucas who just always envisioned about doing all these crazy things visualized, and then he got handed the keys to the candy store. And, you know, whereas Jurassic Park kind of let everybody know you can do new things, it was really Star Wars prequels, as much as I don't like them, they raised the level for movie making after that as far as visual effects and what can really be done. And I think a lot of good things have come out of that. But I definitely wouldn't say that movies rely too much on visual effects. I think they rely on them as much as they always have. It's just now that they're better. It's just that it stands out more when the movie's bad. That's all. Because you're going to have great movies with great visual effects. You're going to have bad movies with great visual effects. It's just, you know, visual effects are just a tool. So Schnepp, as a filmmaker, as a guy who works a lot in animation as well, how do you see an issue like this?
I think my answer to that question is more so about the elevation of special effects towards the end of films, where they're like, oh, we just have to keep beating what came out last year and the year before and the year before. So what you might be seeing or thinking about as far as the less story, more special effects is like the last 30 minutes is like power crammed with like 7 billion different things flying at you, and you're on a spaceship, then you're back on Earth, now you're under the ground, and now you're in a vehicle flying, and then you're avoiding like 500 cities exploding, and then you're inside the moon. And wait, we're not done yet. When are the credits? I don't know. I don't even know what's happening anymore, you know? So I think that could be it, is the story has been overridden by the blockbuster mentality of like, we've got to cram people in here and make an event instead of make a film. So I think as long as the story and the script is strong, then you can power pack as much special effects into it as possible, and it will not buckle.
Right.
So that's
Agreed.
my opinion.
Lauren Sims writes, hello, awesome AMC movie talkers. My question is for John and anyone else who'd like to chime in. John, you've mentioned several movies on the show as being one of my top 10 favorite comedies. So I was wondering if you could list off those 10 favorite comedies for us.
Sure. My top 10 favorite comedies of all time list is like a lot of people's list. It depends on the year. Because, because there are some years you prefer different, you appreciate certain elements more than other elements, and maybe your list will vary a bit. This is a pretty solid list. This is normally my 10. Sometimes one or two will change. But here's in no particular order, okay? This is not in any order. Here are my 10 favorite comedies of all time. I'm going to start with, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there in any order. I'm not a big Woody Allen fan, but Annie Hall. Annie Hall's hilarious. I was late to the party with Annie Hall. I only watched it for the first time like 7 years ago.
Oh, right on.
And I was like, holy crap. I've seen a lot of Woody Allen films, but I'd never seen that one. It's like, this is amazing. I was so amazed by it. So there's Annie Hall, A Fish Called Wanda, is just classic. Dave's gonna, or Ken's gonna kill me. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you laugh at me. Step Brothers. I love Step Brothers.
So funny.
I'm almost physically sick from laughing every time I watch Step Brothers. It's so crazy. Noises Off. Christopher Reeve, Michael Caine, John Ritter. Look, it's in my. I said I'm not putting these in order. Noises Off is in my either number 1 or my number 2 spot. If you haven't seen it, go out and rent it. It's incredible. Spaceballs.
Oh, yeah.
Is my favorite Mel Brooks film. I know
So
that's
good.
not even most people's favorite Mel Brooks film. For me, it is. I love Spaceballs so much. And once again, Wedding Crashers. I don't know why. Wedding Crashers just hit home with me. This one's going to be, no one else is going to have this on the list. For me, the original Hangover. Don't know why, but it was just another one of those films that it just caught me a certain way, and I laughed myself sick. Anchorman. We talked about that the other day, so no need for me to talk about it more. The 40-Year-Old Virgin is also, that's also, if Noises Off is in my 1 or 2 spot, the other film in my 1 or 2 spot would be 40-Year-Old Virgin. And then Clerks 2, which I know
it's 2, not 1.
Yeah, Clerks 2, which is surprised a lot of people because a lot of people don't even like Clerks 2, the best out of the Clerks series. But for me, that film had a lot of heart and depth. And the first time I saw it, I was struggling with issues as well because I was moving around a bunch and I'm thinking, the idea of moving, like how important are friendships in our lives? I was moving to take a job and it's like, wait a minute, I've got friends here that I've had for 15 years. Why am I moving for a job? I mean, and those were types of questions that were being dealt with in Clerks 2 as well. So I thought it had heart, it had meaning for me. I thought it was quite emotional, and it was really funny. So 40-Year-Old Virgin, Clerks 2, Anchorman, The Hangover, Wedding Crashers, Spaceballs, Noises Off, Step Brothers, Annie Hall, and A Fish Called Wanda. That would be my list. Snap, what are some of the films you might have on yours?
All right, well, you
ready.
grabbed a couple of mine, so I'm not going to repeat. Like, I had A Fish Called Wanda, but like in number 1, and I'm not going to list the other list, but number 1 for me is Young Frankenstein. That's my all-time favorite comedy. I can watch that. I can watch that anytime, and I will always laugh, and it'll make big laughs for me. So I got Animal House, the original Animal House.
Yep.
I have Bad Santa, and I could even watch Badder Santa.
Bad Santa.
But I watch Bad Santa. That's our Christmas movie now. That's what we watch for Christmas, and then followed by Rare Exports. So that's the double feature Christmas pack for me. Bowfinger, Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy.
I love Bowfinger.
It kills me every time. Keep it together, keep it together, keep it together. Airplane, the original Airplane.
The original Airplane, yep.
Dumb and Dumber.
Yep.
Trading Places. I can watch
good.
Trading Places when it's just on TV. If it's just randomly on, I'm watching all of it. I'll sometimes, thank God it's on HBO. I can always watch it. This is Spinal Tap.
Oh, yeah.
Kills me.
So good.
It's one of the greatest mockumentaries of the metal scene ever made. A weird one for me, I put it on here, Brazil. Terry Gilliam's Brazil. It's the darkest comedy you'll ever watch and cry laughing because it's becoming true. So it's like, that's pretty much it for me.
No Office Space.
You know what?
Office Space is great.
I had
Yeah, I
Office
love it.
Space, but it's not in my top 50. I have Annie Hall is not my top 50. Galaxy, I mean, it's in my top 50, not top 10. Galaxy Quest, Stripes, and then With Nail and I.
Stripes.
So those are like follow-ups, like maybe top 15. So.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber is one of those ones. I should have had it in there instead of
So
Wedding
good.
Crashers. It's one of those ones that gets into my top 10 as well. Dumb and Dumber should have been on my list.
It's a top 10 is a hard one because you're
is.
like, yo, here's 30 comedies that I could always watch, and it's really
I could
hard.
put all the ones you listed on my list. I mean, it's amazing. All right, folks. Well, listen, we've run out of time. Thanks so much for joining us, and stop what you're doing. take a second and click that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news and, of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show and our weekend AMC Mailbag shows. If you'd like an audio-only version of this show, look in the description of this video and you'll find links to our iTunes and Stitcher Radio so you can listen to us on the way to work or while you're at school or maybe even while you're working or while your wife is talking to you, whatever. However you want to listen to it and use it is totally up to you. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. Once again, click that subscribe button. I want to thank, as always, our very lovely host, Miss Chrisley Kennedy. Chrisley, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Chrisley.
I want to thank our very special guest, the director of the upcoming The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, Mr. John Schnepp.
Yeah.
Schnepp, where can people find you?
At John Schnepp on Twitter. And Chrisley is the strawberry in the middle. That's what she is.
The strawberry in the very nice.
Strawberries.
I like it.
And don't forget, Weinstein, send your checks to Dennis Zen, you terrible thieves.
Just make it good. Make Knight Rider awesome. And then Dennis will be happy.
Hasselhoff.
And I invite him to the world premiere, and then we'll ride his coattails, right?
Yes.
We can come in like picking up his croutons. Yes, Mr. Zhang. Yes, Mr. Zhang. Yes, Mr. Zhang. Like blocking people as they try to jump and get him and get a piece of him. There's Dennis grabbing at him. Just make that happen, and we're all cool. We're not coming after you, is what we're trying to say.
And you can find me on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram, wherever, at John Campea. I'm so creative in coming up with my online handles. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining us. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.